paint a picture of himself as the savior of Israel, and that is the reason he is continuing his war in Gaza and against Hamas, and he has now gone into Hezbollah, and the economic impact on both Israel, and I mean Israel as well, and Hezbollah and Lebanon are pretty evident. Lebanon has been under tremendous economic pressure for last many years. It is impacting economic climate in the Middle East in many ways. What for Middle East is well known for? Middle East is well known for its oil. So if the oil economy is booming, it would give a boom to Middle East as well. Now, oil economy these days is not being controlled by Middle East only. Middle East doesn't remain the sole arbiter of the oil markets and the oil economy. But what they were trying to do until this 7 October took place last year, and then the sort of war that we are seeing these days, and it's a widening theater of war in the Middle East. Until then, some of the Arab countries were getting closer and were opening up their doors and windows to Tel Aviv and Israel. There was a discussion going on of Abrahamic deals. There was perhaps growing pressure on Pakistan also to join the Abrahamic agreements. There were rumors and indications that Saudi Arabia may soon join sign a deal with Israel, opening up its frontiers to Tel Aviv. Now, some of these things have happened. Definitely, yes. There have been reports in past that even Mr. Netanyahu, although it's unconfirmed report, no one has confirmed it, but there have been pretty considerable reports in media, global media, that Netanyahu even visited Saudi Arabia and had a short meeting with Prince Mohammed bin Salman there. UAE and Israel came closer to each other. Bahrain opens its door to Israelis. So all these things were happening, and the region was in a flux. The Palestinian issue was being put into literally a back burner. It was not there on what 7 October did. That 7 October brought back Palestine on the front burner. That this is an issue that needs to be resolved. Indeed, the price the Palestinians have paid is literally, one can't think of, more than 44,000 people have been killed. Plus, if you add about 1,200, if I'm not wrong, Israelis were killed on October 7, when Hamas launched it. Now, there is always a debate that whether Hamas initiated this war or this war was initiated even before. It all depends upon the prism that you look at it. One prism, and especially the Western prism, says it like this, that Hamas initiated it by attacking Tel Aviv and Israel on October 7, 2023. That is one perspective. The other perspective is that this war has been going on for the last 40, 50 years. Palestinians are being cornered. So this is a debate that would go on. There's no point in discussing it, but the issue is that almost 50,000 people have been killed, resultantly increased poverty, resultantly there are the sort of trade and that was expected to grow between some of these Gulf Arab countries and Israel has not gone up to that extent. And the Arab streets are getting pretty divergent to what the Arab sheikdoms and kingdoms are thinking of. There's a big divergence in their perspectives, in their thinkings. Arab street is not necessarily inside with the Arab leaders. And Arab leaders do also realize it. And that is the reason you see that there has been some restraint over the last 1 year about the rapprochement that was going on between Israel Saudi Arabia, between Israel, the UAE, Israel, Bahrain, and those sort of things. So the world has changed. And who is going to have the last hurrah, the last laugh? It's very difficult to say. Indeed, the Palestinians are paying a big price for it, but you cannot write them off at this very moment. Now, you see, this is the thread that has been there from the very early, or from the very beginning of this war, that the war theater between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and Gaza, whichever way you want to put it, is going to widen. The first thing that it literally sucked up were the Yemeni Houthis, and they were effective in hitting the shipping lines from Israel to the west. So they did. It did carry an impact. So the first, those were sucked in. The second, the Abrahamic Accord went down. It did not go as per was the initial thinking and the initial expectations were. And then Lebanon was the issue. That Lebanon, with Hezbollah on the front, on the southern side, and basically on the borders with Israel, they have always been not even at war, but they have been keeping a very tough eye, and there was a tit and for tat scenario on these fronts, that if any party does one thing, the other party used to respond. Now, this was not an easy thing for Israel as well. And their northern borders, especially in the northern villages, those people who were sitting out there, they had always that feeling that we could be hit, and there have been, they had to evacuate. In fact, right now, if I'm not wrong, something like 200,000 people have been evacuated out from those regions. The figure might be wrong, but something like that. So that there was always a possibility that this low intensity war between Hezbollah and Israel would go up, and resultantly what is happening, that exactly the same thing has happened, what was being anticipated for last 8-9 months. But there was again a perspective for why Israel did that. Netanyahu was politically getting weaker and weaker in Israel. Netanyahu was under pressure to bring back those hostages, strike a deal with Hamas. Netanyahu took it in a different perspective. He realized this is a lifetime opportunity for him to gain the confidence of the Israeli population and win back the elections expected in 2026, the latest. It might happen, in fact, there were recent reports were saying that it might even happen early 25. But the original date was something in 26. So all said and done, he is trying to paint a picture of himself as the savior of Israel, and that is the reason he is continuing his war in Gaza and against Hamas, and he has now gone into Hezbollah, and the economic impact on both Israel, and I mean Israel as well, and Hezbollah and Lebanon are pretty evident. Lebanon has been under tremendous economic pressure for the last many years. Right now, Lebanon, hundreds of thousands of people are being evacuated. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the reserve funds. So Lebanese economy is in tatters. And how would they continue? That remains a big question. But at the same time, the Israeli economy is under pressure. Some of their ports are not working optimally. In fact, their activity has been reduced a lot. So their exports have gone down. Economic activity in parts of Israel has gone down. There has been a brain drain of many Israelis, and a large number of them held dual nationalities. And they were literally the brain behind the technological, formidable technology of Israel. And that is the reason that now, once they have started to move out of Israel, and they are moving out in very large numbers every week. people are moving out in large numbers out of Israel because of this fear. What is going on? Missile could come in from Iran, missile could come in from Hezbollah side, missile could come from Houthi side, who knows, and from Hamas as well, although Hamas has been weakened to a very, very great extent. So people are moving out. So even Israel is paying a very steep price for this conflict. Plus, you have to add the cost of the war as well to keep the war machinery running. This is not an easy job. This requires huge amount of money. Now, the only positive point with Israel is that the Western powers, especially Americans, are behind them solidly. And they are providing. Now, how long that could continue, even within the Western world, this is starting to swing that could we go on supporting Israel blindly. But both the parties are paying very significantly. The Palestinians with their lives, and almost the figure is now about to touch 50,000, God forbid, and the Israelis with a small number of lives as well, plus the economy and the technology brain drain from Israel. So things are happening on both the fronts as far as the economy is concerned. It will have short-term and long-term implications. And let's start with oil. Oil is going to be a major issue in this entire ballgame. Oil has been going down and down. It was an issue of pure fundamentals. Supply was on upswing. Demand was going down. The Chinese, it is being said that the Chinese dragon was pulling off the global economy. Now that the Chinese dragon has slowed down, their economic recovery after COVID has not been very spectacular as was anticipated. So they are not growing. Their demand is not growing at the same pace as it was growing before. I'm not saying that their crude demand or the oil demand is not growing. Chinese oil demand is growing, but it is not growing at the pace it was growing before the COVID. So that is one thing. So that means the global demand is going down. And in the Western world, EVs are coming up in very large numbers, and the electric vehicles. And 60 to 70% of oil goes into the transportation sector. So if the transportation sector starts moving to electric vehicles, that means the consumption of crude will go down globally as well. So China slow down in demand growth, global economy stuttering in anticipation of recession or stagflation, as some are saying, plus the EV revolution. All these things are contributing to a lower demand of oil and higher supplies of oil from various areas. Even Guyana is emerging as a big one. Iraq is being regarded as a virgin island, as far as a virgin region as far as oil discovery is concerned. There's much more is anticipated there. Iranians are under restraint. They might increase their output considerably. UAE has increased its output significantly. In Pakistan, they are now saying that a very large gas and oil deposits could have been found. And if it is really found, then it means that Pakistan could be the fourth largest. Pakistan would hold the fourth largest oil and gas resources in the world. So the demand is down, supplies are up, prices were going down. In the short term, what is happening? Until yesterday or until day before, this was not happening. But ever since this Israel and Hezbollah war started, oil prices started to went up. Although the response was muted, yes, it has not spiked. The oil prices have not skyrocketed. It has risen. And when the oil prices rise, it impacts the Middle Eastern countries, the Gulf Arab countries. The second aspect is that if Iran gets involved and bogged down into this war, there would be Western pressure, sanctions, maybe even Americans intervening militarily to control Iran, and that could mean that the Iranian exports, oil industry could be impacted. Thirdly, there have been some hints that Israel, in retaliation of the Iranian missile attacks on Wednesday, they are thinking of either hitting the Iranian nuclear sites or their oil and energy infrastructure. Now, if that happens, that means oil prices would skyrocket. Then there is the possibility that Iran may, Strait of Hormuz is the only area from where the oil from the Persian Gulf could move towards west. And at a certain area, it is very narrow. If I'm not wrong, it's something like 21 nautical miles or 39 kilometers for two-way traffic. So it is very narrow at certain area, and Iran has the capacity, although it would have to pay a very heavy price for it. So if it wants, but it has the capacity to somehow block it or block the flow of the shipping vehicles through Straits of Hormuz. So all said and done, all these would impact the Middle East, the oil world tremendously. The prices could spike, and if it spikes, the other Gulf oil sheikdoms would definitely enjoy that oil prices going up. But this is not going to last because of the fundamentals. The fundamentals, as I said earlier, are weak. Oil demand is low and supplies are plentiful.